Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the first session of the last day of the Year of the Man Summit, the third year in a row that we are running this summit. Today, we have something very special for you. You know, every single day, every single speaker has just kind of like, it's been better and better and better. And I know you guys have been resonating. That's why you're up with me at 9 a.m. EST and 6 a.m. Eastern time. Sorry, not Eastern, West Coast time. I know some of you West Coast people are up early. Thank you for joining us. But today we have Arian Samouie. He is an intuitive trauma healing and transformation coach. He's known for his innate ability to intuitively identify the root cause that created the patterns that we are unconsciously stuck in. And today he's going to be talking about how to help men integrate their emotional side, to become more aware, to become more conscious. And I found Arian on Instagram. I stumbled upon his videos he just had a very, just kind of like Jasper did, like the essence, the speaking, the slowness, the stillness. He kind of embodies what it's like to be stoic and peaceful. So that's why I'm having him on today. And with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to you, Arian, and I can't wait to see what you have for us.
Thank you very much indeed. It's great to see everyone here. Today, I'm going to be talking about self-awareness mainly and the importance of self-awareness and why we need to go towards self-awareness. But before I do, I want to start with a question. And every question that I ask, I want you to answer to yourself in your head. So what are you thinking right now? I want you to tell yourself whatever it is you're thinking right now. You may be thinking that, oh, this guy's beard is quite long. Or you may be thinking, I'm not thinking anything. That itself is a thought. Whatever you're thinking, tell yourself what you're thinking right now. What are you feeling right now? You may be feeling awkward. You may be feeling confused. You may be feeling the sensation of anxiety. Whatever you're feeling, tell yourself what you're feeling right now. Whatever you were thinking happened in the mind. Whatever you were feeling happened in the body. But who did you tell these answers to? And this is not a trick question. You said it to yourself. You are the conscious self. You are your consciousness. You're not your mind. You're not your body. You're not your feelings, and you're not your thoughts. You are your consciousness. You as your consciousness is what we're referring to when we say the self. Your life experiences have created patterns that you are unconsciously stuck in. And this is the same for every human alive. And in order to come out of these patterns, to progress and grow, we have to raise our self-awareness. Now, if we're not going towards raising self-awareness, we're not able to progress. Every single human being is programmed based on the life experiences that they have. And in the spirit of becoming more aware of yourself, I want you to become aware of how you feel when you hear what I talk about in the space that I have to talk now. So you can even go as far as writing it down if you want. If you've got a pen and paper with you, as I talk, you can write it down. This is going to help your awareness. Now, you are an emotional being that thinks. You are not a thinking being that feels emotions. And again, we cannot grow as emotional beings without understanding ourselves. Understanding yourself is what loving yourself actually is. Understanding ourselves is a big part of going towards self-love. To love is not what most people think it is. It's not how I feel or the good feeling that I get. There's a difference between loving someone and having a feeling towards someone. People tend to think that loving someone is by what I do for them. Because I've done that thing that I believe is the best thing for that person, that means I love them. But that's not what it is. Love is to understand. If I understand someone or something, then my actions will go towards doing what is best for them. For example, let's say that there's a child and that child has a goldfish and that child loves the goldfish and wants to do something to show the goldfish how much that child loves the goldfish. So he takes the goldfish out of the water and puts it on a really comfortable bed so that the goldfish can be comfortable. That will kill the goldfish. People tend to think that loving someone or something is by what they do for them. Because I have done what I believe is best, that means I love them. But going towards understanding the goldfish, I understand that taking it out of the water is going to hurt the goldfish. And at the same time, this is the same for ourselves. If I want to love myself or anyone else, I have to go towards understanding. And the only way I can understand myself better is by becoming more aware of myself. Or we can say, raising my self awareness. To love is to take on as part of oneself. If I want to practice self love, then I must be able to become aware and take on the parts of myself that I'm rejecting by understanding myself. For a conscious being, which is what you are, self awareness is the key. It's the answer, it's the path. It's the difference between going towards a happy and peaceful life or living at the mercy of reactivity. Now, I need to make something very, very clear. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong with reacting. It's part of how we work as emotional beings. And I'm not suggesting that reacting is wrong or bad. But it's important to understand that staying in a state of reactivity is how we remain in our pain. If I'm constantly stuck in reacting to all of the triggers I feel throughout my day, and because that's a normal way of being and everything can trigger me, then I don't really have control of my life. I'm not consciously creating my own reality. My pain is the main driver of creating my reality. So in order to create or to be able to create the life that I want, I have to go towards being able to understand myself as an emotional being, because that's what I am. This is why self-awareness is key in our reality. Now, we go through life giving meaning to every experience we have, and we are programmed. We give meaning about the situation as well as meaning about ourselves or other. Whatever the experience is, it could be something we experienced ourselves, or it could be seeing someone else going through an experience. We birth our meanings from these experiences, and we continue to back them up with any evidence we can find throughout our lives, throughout the experiences we have. And because my conscious self, the conscious driver, the consciousness, have my own unique perspective of reality, I get to choose what meaning to align with, what meaning to give in these moments. Even if that meaning has been told to me, I still get to choose to align with it, to take that on. These are parts of myself that I am unaware of, which align with the meanings I've given in my past. One of the most beautiful things about life is that nothing has meaning. Everything is neutral. Now, this allows us to give anything in life any meaning we choose to give. For example, let's say there's a rainy day and two gardeners. And let's say one day that it's raining, both gardeners can't go to work. Now, one gardener really likes his job and he's annoyed that he can't go to work. And the other gardener really hates his job and he's very happy that he doesn't need to go to work. Both gardeners feel different based on the meanings that they have given about the rainy day. But the rainy day itself, it's neutral, it's meaningless. It's all to do with the meaning each individual person has given about the rainy day. Now, see, it's very easy to hear me say things like this and go towards thinking, all I need to do is go towards the meanings I want to give, which means that I just need to go away from the meanings I don't want to give. Our ability to give meanings plays one of the biggest, if not the biggest role in creating our reality. Our meanings are our beliefs. These are our core beliefs. And our beliefs are the meanings we have given in our life experiences. And if I'm trying to become aware of the meaning that I have given and now and which ones I hold throughout my life, I have to become more aware of myself. In order to raise my self-awareness, I have to go towards understanding myself. To understand myself, I have to learn how I work as an emotional being. I need to understand that how I feel is actually a communication from myself to myself about myself. Even though my entire life I have been taught that I feel wrong and I should reject my feelings. But this is actually my path to my true happiness and peace. Once I become aware that there are parts of myself that have given meaning that I no longer wish to align with, instead of rejecting them and pushing them away, I need to understand why they have given these meanings, where these meanings originated from. And if I'm truly practicing self love, then I'm aiming to understand. If I'm aiming to understand, then I have to become curious about the communication of these parts of myself. And if I'm truly curious about the communication, I don't need it to change. And the communication is my feelings. If I need the communication to change, then I'm not curious. I'm trying to correct it instead of understanding it. How I feel is the communication of these parts of myself I need to understand. If I'm ever trying to correct how I feel, I'm not curious about the communication. I'm not trying to understand and I'm making it wrong. This is why how I feel is correct every single time. And I need you to really hear that. How I feel as an emotional being is correct 100% of the time because it's a communication. As men, we're brought up in a society constantly being taught to reject how we feel emotion. We carry so much shame towards our emotions. And this is the main reason we get stuck. Our programming into rejecting how we feel emotionally is the main reason we are stuck in our path of progression and growth. And these, the parts of me that feel the emotions are myself, they are me. I cannot become aware of myself if I keep making the feeling wrong. You cannot practice self love if you're.
Hey, Aaron, sorry, we actually muted you by accident.
It's okay. I saw that quickly.
Sorry, I was trying to mute Abraham. Go on.
Sorry. I'll say the last thing then. You cannot practice self love if you're not on a path of raising your self awareness and integrating aspects of yourself that are trying to communicate to you through how you're feeling. You are very unique. There is no one that has ever existed in human history that is like you. You have value for just being you. Your value is different from someone else's value, which plays a huge role in your uniqueness. The reason you don't think you are is because you've been taught to be what people expect you to be, not who you authentically are. Throughout life, in the moments you were authentically yourself, you were told not to be who you were in those moments. I'm talking about the moments when you cried as a child and you were told that big boys don't cry and you need to stop crying. You got to be strong. You have to be strong. Like the version of strong that we were taught, we were being taught that that version of strong means suppressing, denying, and rejecting how you feel, suppressing and denying the communication. Or the times you may have expressed anger because something, for whatever reason, you were angry and you were scolded for behaving in that way, that anger made you feel. In those moments, we feel how we do. This is us being the most authentic you in that moment. And throughout your life, when you would be authentically you, who you are, you would be told not to be that version of yourself. You have always been given the message that you need to be someone other than who you authentically are in order to be accepted. In those moments, you experienced emotional distress without resolution, which is what trauma is. Trauma is not only when big things happen, like like sexual abuse or car crash or death in the family. Trauma happens so much more than you would think. In any moment, you experience emotional distress without resolution for that distress. That's trauma. And in those moments, we give meanings about ourselves. This is what has shaped your reality. If I keep getting the message that who I am authentically in those moments isn't okay, and I need to always be someone else in order to be accepted, then that must mean it's because who I am isn't good enough. Our meanings are our beliefs. Our pain doesn't come from our thoughts. Our pain actually comes from the deep rooted beliefs we have aligned with in our life experiences. And to change your life to the life that you want and feel the peace that you're looking for, you need to go within and understand all of the parts of yourself that you are unconscious of. Again, it's that understanding. Love means understanding. And we do that by raising self awareness. The path of raising self awareness requires you to understand the communication feeling from your being. The communication is how you feel as an emotional being. Going down the path of raising your self awareness requires you to feel the emotions that you have learnt to reject in the past when you were constantly told that you're not acceptable to be the version of yourself. The parts of yourself that feel shame, the parts of yourself that feel fear, that feel despair, that feel guilty or feel jealous or feel vulnerable, your vulnerability. These are all communications. The parts of yourself that are communicating to you through the sensation of anxiety. And by going towards how you feel, you can raise your self awareness. And this is how you increase your emotional intelligence. You increase your emotional intelligence by feeling the emotions that are coming towards you by raising your self awareness. Your entire human being system is a feedback machine. You are the conscious self. And it's just your entire life, you and all of society have been taught to ignore the communication from your feedback machine. Ignore and reject how you feel. Earlier, I asked you to be aware of how you feel throughout this talk. If anything I said brought up any uncomfortable feelings that you have become aware of, know that these feelings are the communication that require your attention, that require to be felt. It's the part of yourself that you need to go towards. Thank you very much for your time, everyone. And thank you, Elise. Oh, you're on
Sorry,
mute.
I was muted. We're having a little trouble with the mics today. Wow, guys, thank you. Like, that was very, I loved how you explain everything in a very conscious way. Can you actually explain a little bit more in depth the way that a man himself can get to the next level? Like, maybe he already has some level of awareness. Maybe he already knows that, like, he is his thoughts, or, you know, to put it in that frame, right? And he wants to maybe go deeper or further. How would you suggest that he gets to that next level?
The biggest thing really is to understand that we don't know what we don't know. So, like, you know what you know what you don't know, but you don't know what you don't know. For example, if I was in a dark room, a pitch black room, and it was filled with furniture, I wouldn't know what's in there. And that's the awareness of the self. There are so many parts of ourselves that we are completely unaware of. And understanding that my path is to connect with those parts of myself. And the way that I do that is through feeling the emotions. So there are kind of like frameworks, ways of doing this. There are ways that we work emotionally. For example, if you were going to get surgery, open heart surgery, there would be things that would need we would need to follow that would be very similar and exactly the same for you and myself, because there are ways that we work, whether it's sterilizing the area or on a, get a blood transfusion, whatever it is. And then there'd be uniquenesses, but there are still things that are exactly the same. This is the same emotionally. When we experience trauma, which is emotional distress without resolution, our consciousness fragments, and those fragments of ourselves are parts. The parts of ourselves that are experiencing the trauma, and the two main reasons are because the experience is overwhelming and I can't handle it right now, or the other one is because in the moment where I'm experiencing trauma, it's because I have lost the connection that I rely on for my survival with the person that is either scolding me or whoever is involved in that. So, in order to maintain that connection with someone, I have to reject this part of myself. And whether we reject it because it's overwhelming or to maintain the connection, we reject it in the place that we are unaware of, which is our subconscious. So we are unaware of what we are unaware of. So the biggest advice I would give is be open to the fact that you don't know what you're unaware of. And once you learn how to connect with these parts, and the beginning is always through feeling the emotion that gets triggered. A trigger is actually the fishing hook to these parts of ourselves. A trigger doesn't necessarily create a new emotion. A trigger brings a part of ourselves to our awareness that is already holding an emotion. So go towards it. And the more we go towards it, the more we become aware. And your subconscious will like puke and throw up information and memories and so much value that you are waiting for. And it will just constantly keep doing that. This is what this human being is. It's a feedback machine, a feedback system. Learn how the human being system works.
Okay. And then we have another question, which is, how do you one by one heal those fragments from times you experience trauma, from the conscious to the subconscious, when you don't know why you do the things you do from the trauma you experienced? Like, so how do you heal the things that you don't know that you have?
This is it's one of the most asked questions that I get, but unfortunately there is no one black and white answer because everyone is so unique. The closest black and white answer that I can give is by going towards the emotion. Remember, the emotion is always the first part. So let's say that I message my partner or someone that I'm dating. I see that they read the message, but they don't reply to me. In that moment, I feel anxiety, I feel anger, I feel jealousy. And maybe what that will do is that will make me respond back. Like, why are you ignoring me? Why haven't you messaged me? Like, what's going on? And then I get a response saying, I've been busy at work. Like, I'm not ignoring you. And it's like, oh, well, now I've got that regret. In that moment, and this is why self-awareness is key, in that moment, it's we're making a decision, and all humans, any decision a human being makes is based on how it makes them feel. So if I make a decision to text saying, why are you ignoring me? It's because how I feel in that moment is undesirable to me. I'm trying to get away from the undesirable way that I'm feeling. So if I say, why are you ignoring me? My partner might text back saying, hey, I'm not ignoring you. Sorry, I didn't see it. That will actually calm whatever I'm feeling, whether it's the fear, the anger, the rage, the anxiety. In the moment of becoming aware that I feel the jealousy, the anger, the rage, or anything, that's what I need to go towards. What we do is we just try to reduce it by these behaviors. All right, well, if I do this, then that's going to reduce this. If I do this, it's going to reduce this. Sit with it. The first protocol, the first place you always go to is sitting with it, allowing it to take over your body. That's the first part of the communication. There are differences of what we need to do based on where it comes from, what kind of trauma it is. But essentially, what we're doing is we're connecting to a part of ourselves that has an unmet need. Because in the moments we experience trauma, in those moments, we had unmet needs. And those unmet needs are either being met or attempted to be met in an unhealthy way. And this is where resentment comes in. This is where anger comes in. This is where um, things like binge watching TV, ignoring what I need to do, that my diet, whether I'm drinking alcohol all the time or smoking weed, all of these things are my attempt to in an unhealthy way meet an unmet need. So by feeling the emotion that this part of myself is carrying, that's my first connection to this part. And eventually, through that feeling the emotion, I could go into a state of imagination where I could actually communicate with this part of myself and I can learn the unmet need of this part of myself. And I could either meet that need in a state of imagination, or it could be an unmet need that needs to be met based on the behavior that I have. This part of myself might go, listen, you've got to stop abandoning us. Stop going to parties that we don't want to go to. Stop, you know, giving yourself to people and always helping people when people don't help you. And it requires a behavioral change that will go to the unmet need. But one of the most valuable things that any human being can do is to truly start seeing themselves as multiple parts. You are not one part, you are not one thing. We are all multiple personalities, and we only call it multiple personality disorder when it's really, really out of control. But a human being is multiple parts. If you can regularly see yourself as multiple parts, your entire world will change. Your entire reality will change because that's how you actually work. And the reason you have inner conflict is because you have multiple parts. And the only reason why I grew up thinking that I was one part is because all of my parts were called Arian. Everyone called all of my parts Arian. So that's the identity that they all took. And that's why no matter which part I turned into, I thought I was one thing.
Wow, so good. And we actually have a couple more questions that got inspired from everything that you just said. One
Yeah.
of them is, how can I embrace my feelings and accept the past, let go, and look toward the future? And I feel like you're kind of explaining this in like all of your answers, but
No,
I guess if you can refocus it.
it's a good question. Um, the goal isn't necessarily to accept the past. Accept like you can accept something and not like it. I can give you an apple and you can accept it but not like it. And that's not what the goal is. The goal is actually to find approval for. And it's like, well, that's fucking insane. Like how can I possibly find approval for what happened to me? And I'm not telling you to be okay with what happened to you. That's not what it is. You hear all the time in the self-help community, spiritual community, healing community that you've got to forgive. Again, that's not the goal. Forgiveness isn't even what we have been taught it is. The way that we would need to go, the direction that we need to go is by meeting the unmet needs of these parts of ourselves. We will, you'll, first of all, you completely change the way you feel. You won't be triggered of the same things anymore. Your entire being is different. Your nervous system will not be as attacked, as under stress either. So you are a completely, every time you integrate, connect with these more parts more and more, you are integrating more and more. Then you get to a place where you're practicing so much self-love because you cannot do this without self-love. You cannot accept, take on a part of yourself without loving this part of yourself. And that's what it is. To love is to take on a part of yourself. So then, like, for example, I love my child. I take my child on as a part of myself. So then if I make a decision that is going to hurt my child, then it's going to hurt me because I have taken on that child. And it's the same for all of these parts of ourselves that we've learned to reject. I need to learn how to take on this part of myself as me. That way, I will not make a decision that will hurt this part of myself. So the more and more I take on and integrate these parts of myself, I am practicing self-love. The more I do this, the more I'm loving myself. And then you get to a stage where you're like, I do love myself. And it's not like, oh, I've done one integration and now I love myself. You get to the place where you go, yeah, I do love myself. But I'd never be this version of myself that I love if I had not gone through what I went through. So I'm finding approval for what I have gone through. That doesn't mean that I'm okay with what I've gone through. That doesn't mean that I will even allow the people back into my lives that have done whatever they've done to me. It just means that I have found approval. And if we keep trying to go towards accepting what I've gone through, you can force yourself to accept, but not be okay with it. So it's about really just being there for these parts of ourselves to then eventually arrive at a place where I find that approval. Oh, Elise, have you gone?
No, I'm still listening. It just takes me a second to mute and unmute. So we have another question actually that kind of goes off of that as well. Someone really wants you to expand on the importance of sitting with the emotion, embracing it, and realizing how you respond can affect us in a positive or negative way. So I think it's kind of referring to when you said the rainy day story, like how we feel about something that could potentially be neutral. Can you kind of just go into that a little bit more?
Yeah. So this is where I was saying it's very, very important to understand there's living in reactivity, which is what survival is. You hear the term living in survival, right? What's that mean? I'm constantly reacting to my triggers. But throughout our lives, we've been taught that how we behave isn't okay. Well, you shouldn't behave that way. All right, I get you're angry, but you shouldn't behave like that. Don't be like this with this person and don't be that. And people reject us and leave us. So our entire life's programming, along with a lot of bad advice out there, even in the self-help community, is about not reacting. And there's nothing wrong with reacting. That's like that's like getting a cut on the shoulder and then me poking it, and then you'll go, ah, and I'll be like, hey, what are you reacting for? It's like, because it's a wound. And my triggers are a wound. So reacting itself isn't bad. It's about understanding that that reaction is a communication. So in the moments where I may be triggered to react in a certain way, my body is what's feeling it. I don't feel in the mind, I feel in the body. Most of the time, we might be feeling anxiety. Anxiety is a physical sensation. Anxiety is not an emotion, but it's triggered through an emotion. Anxiety is a mask of a suppressed emotion. This is why you hear a lot sit with the anxiety. And it's the same with any emotion. If I recognize that it's fear, if I recognize that it's jealousy, it's anger, it's the sensation of anxiety. Discover where in your body that you're feeling it. Most of the time, it will be at the pit of your stomach, might be in your heart, might be in your chest, might be in your throat. Discover what part of your body you're feeling it. And then in that moment, sit down. And then what I always say is that sensation in your body, see it as a color. And whatever that color is, it could be any color that you can see it as. And then what we do unconsciously is we're pushing away and rejecting this part of ourselves because that's how we've always stayed safe, and that's not wrong. But what we want to do is we want to flip it on the head. We want to consciously have an inviting attitude towards this part. And I want you to see that color growing and taking over your entire body. As the same time you're doing that, I want you to allow yourself to think any thoughts that you're having without trying to change it. Most of the time, people try to change the thoughts because they've been taught. For example, let's go quite extreme. You know, there might be a part of yourself that thinks, my mom didn't love me. She showed this with her words and her actions. And that's the part of myself that's in pain. But then you've been taught that that's not okay. Oh, no, you can't say that. It's your mom. Like, whoa, whoa, what are you saying? So that I can't say that and I shouldn't say that, but she did love me. She clothed me and she fed me and she bathed me. Of course she loved me. That's actually my way of pushing the pain away. And if I'm trying to feel that emotion, feel that pain, and I'm just trying to sit down and feel it, I need to go towards it. So I need to allow myself to immerse myself in the reality of the part of myself that is thinking that my mom didn't love me. That doesn't mean that when I come out of it, in reality, she doesn't love me. It's just one of the main ways that we protect ourselves from our pain is by keeping ourselves away from how this part of ourselves feels. Because once we go into it, then it means it's real in that moment. And it is because it's the reality of that part of ourselves. Not necessarily the reality we're living in, but it's the reality of that part of ourselves. And we need to live in that reality. So I'm going to think all the thoughts that this part of myself is thinking in order to be able to feel what this part of myself is feeling.
Wow. Okay. This is such a powerful session. Are you guys feeling this? Type a 1 in the chat if you're feeling like just blown away by all this information. I love the depth that we're getting into here with the emotions and the body and how the trauma is stored in the body. I'm loving this. Sorry, I have one question. So you had mentioned before about texting a partner because you feel anxious and you're kind of using that as a way to regulate your nervous system. Sometimes this can go into, toxic behaviors because we get used to like outrageous things to regulate our nervous system. We're using our partner to regulate our nervous system. We're using external resources to regulate our nervous system. So I want to combine kind of like this question with another person who asked a question about letting go. How do you start to understand that what you're using to regulate your nervous system actually is enabling a toxic behavior and isn't a healthy way to regulate the nervous system?
How do you use that to understand that?
Sorry, I kind of changed the question at the end. So like, how do you start to understand that the behaviors you're using to regulate yourself are actually not good,
Yeah.
and you need to change kind of like, what you're
Yeah.
using to regulate yourself?
With compassion. You've heard the term self-sabotage, and I'm here to tell you that self-sabotage doesn't actually exist. There's no such thing. Understanding the why of our behaviors is profoundly powerful. For example, let's say someone will end a relationship. The person that ends the relationship is doing it, and then they're like, oh my God, every time I get in a relationship and every time we get close, I always end it. I don't know why. I either cheat or I'm really just, I shut off. I push the person away. I ghost them. Like, all of these are unhealthy behaviors. But to understand why these behaviors are here is huge. Every single behavior that any part of you has is for you, not against you. There's a lot of information out there in regards to how the ego is the bad guy and you've got a critic. There is no critic. That doesn't exist. There are multiple parts, and a lot of these parts have learned to speak to you and treat you the same way that other people have spoken to you and treated you. It's an amalgamation of all the parts of ourselves that we've had to adopt and take on that have learned how to keep us safe. So this part of me that always pushes someone away and always ends a relationship, whether it's if I end it or I do something to sabotage, maybe I might cheat or something like that. When I understand that this part of me is actually for me, this part of me has learned not to let anyone too close, because whenever people get close, they always leave me. They always abandon me. They always hurt me. When I truly understand that all of these parts are for me, I truly get to the depth of this understanding. And then I it gets you to a place of not rejecting this part, of understanding. And again, understanding is to love. I cannot bring any part of me in without loving this part of me. I cannot change a behavior, an unhealthy behavior of a part of me, by rejecting it. Can't. It's impossible. It's not how we work. So by understanding that there is a reason why this behavior exists, and to get to the core of the reason with compassion and understanding, because the part of me that would always end the relationship has actually kept me safe, because I've learned that whenever someone gets close to me, they always leave me. So this part of me is like, well, okay, I'll keep yourself, make sure no one gets close to you. So if I go towards that part of myself, I fucking hate you because you always end the relationships and it's never good. I'm just pushing that part of myself away. And then the behavior continues. And I'm like, oh, I can't change this behavior because I'm not understanding it. I'm not compassionately going towards understanding it. And when I do, I can then, again, it's the opposing part. And the moments where anyone would experience trauma, we fragment. And there's one part that we reject and one part that we take on, which has the behavior that keeps us safe. So it's understanding both opposing parts. And it's not just like one, there are behaviors that's not just based on one or two aspects. It's multiple aspects that have had the same type of experience throughout our lives. But I have to go towards understanding. And this is what self-awareness is key. Because when I catch myself in the moment, I might be going, no, you know what? I need to just, this isn't working. I need to just end the relationship or something. Or if I'm going towards messaging someone that's messaging me, I need to, in those moments, I need to become aware of myself and ask the questions, why am I going down this path? What is it what is it that's taking me here? And the way I do that is through feeling. Because again, my actions are based on how I feel, or maybe not feel. If I feel empty and I want to feel good, it's that empty feeling. What is that empty feeling? The empty feeling is despair. Why do I feel despair? Why do I feel powerless right now? What is that? That exploration of understanding will get me to the places I need to get to then compassionately be okay with myself, which is what will change the behavior. Not rejecting, not making it wrong. If I make it wrong, there's a difference between wrong and unhealthy. Vastly different. You can, if you had a mother who had three children and there was no food, she didn't have a job or any money, and then you could be like, all right, well, she has to feed her children, so she goes steals food from a shop. You can say that's wrong, but it's not unhealthy necessarily. It's like, oh, she had to do what she had to do in order to feed her children. It's not, and it's subjective. So there's a huge difference between wrong and unhealthy. If I make it wrong, I'm not understanding. And if I'm not understanding, I cannot change it.
Wow, that is so good. I loved every single second of this. And guys, since we kind of did a combination free plus VIP, we are actually going to conclude the session for today. And I will see you guys all at 10:30 when we have Frank Ortega come in. He is a Christian man who's all about the Lord, but he's not super preachy. And he has a podcast called Holy and Horny, which we're going to talk about. But for this one, Arian, you are so amazing. I love your spirit. I love the depth to which you answered the questions. You brought so much value here today. As you can see from the comment section, all these men are just like, thank you. I felt this. This was so deep. So thank you so much for being here. And for the rest of you guys, I will see you all at 10:30 for the second session of the day.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys. Bye-bye.